Venturing up to the Kalumburu Road, which has a fearsome reputation for corrugations.
This is a fairly significant detour from the Gibb River Road. We're traveling up to the awe-inspiring Mitchell Falls, then across the remote Aboriginal community of Kalumburu.
The Gibb River Kalumburu Road lives up to its reputation for having some nasty corrugations, as you can see here. And believe it or not, this road was graded just about a week ago.
We rattle painfully up the road, encountering a curious but cautious dingo. Not far up the track is an enormous Gould's monitor, a hefty beast that could be mistaken for a small dinosaur. The tropical north is a very dramatic and dynamic environment, with many more subtleties than just the wet and the dry. Aboriginal groups recognise 6 or even 7 separate seasons through the course of the year, quite often signified by the flowering of what could be called calendar plants. The yellow kapok bush, turkey bush and red flowering currajong are such examples of dry season blooms.
We find a roadside camp by a small pond with a dirty old dingo hanging around. The little pool has its own resident grebe and a couple of brolgas. What looks like a clump of rubbish hanging over the water is a masterfully constructed nest belonging to the bar-breasted honeyeater. Other locals include fairy wrens, rufous-throated honeyeaters, striated pardalets, and the banded honeyeater. The camp cleanup crew is making short work of this dropped sausage. These meat ants are an aggressive species and fascinating to watch from a distance. Once night comes, new critters emerge, such as this northern small-eyed snake. A very large praying mantis considers a mayfly for a meal, one this frog certainly wouldn't pass up.
Our journey continues north, passing in close proximity to a dry season fire, to the junction of Kalumburu and Mitchell Falls. At this point we cross the King Edward River, where not far away are several spectacular and extensive Aboriginal art sites. These sandstone outcrops weather away into caves and overhangs, perfect for human occupation. Being close to a major watercourse and the resources it provides is a winning recipe for ancient galleries of cave paintings. The more one explores these complexes, the more one finds. Massive anthropomorphic beings adorn the ceilings and the walls. Mouth-sprayed hand stencils, local wildlife, and human figures from many different time periods. These ghost-like figures on the wall behind me are an endemic form of art to the northern Kimberley known as Wodgenas. They're a relatively new style of art in the sequence, guesstimated at being under 1,000 years of age. They represent deities or even storm spirits, and they are illustrated mouthless. One unreliable source indicates that if they were to open their mouths, it would unleash the forces of nature with such fury it may even destroy the world. These slender artistic figures here are called Bradshaw Paintings, which are an endemic style to the northern Kimberley. Now, they only come in red, and of all the pigments that you can find, red's the one that lasts the longest. It's an iron-based hematite that can get into the pores of the rock, up to several millimetres, which becomes like a tattoo on human skin. So even if rock exfoliation occurs, evidence of the pigment can still be seen beneath. These paintings could easily be many thousands of years old. Although some of these paintings have endured the ravages of time, it does not mean they are indestructible and should never be touched. Take photos and leave alone. We journey on towards Mitchell Falls, where summer signs us in and pays the fees. The campsite is spacious but quite full, and we score the spot next to the scenic flight launching pad. Lucky us.
It's time to stretch our legs and explore. We head off down the trail that eventually leads to Mitchell Falls. A short side trip takes us down into a gully where Mertens Creek flows over the precipice above into a deep pool under shady trees of a monsoon vine forest. Again, native rock paintings are in abundance. We're still in a safe-to-swim zone here, at least no saltwater crocodiles. The trail continues through forest and pandanus. What appears to be a relatively flat landscape is a shroud of deception over the fierce ruggedness that greets explorers. Deep chasms cut into the stone are surrounded by broken rocks, as seen here at Mertens Gorge.
It's only a short walk farther on and across the creek to the main attraction. It's difficult to convey how big and impressive this place is. Punami Umpu is regarded for good reason as a powerful site of Wodjina law, or, as the local Wunnambul folk call them, the Gulinji. In 1921, a government-sponsored expedition came through and named the falls after Sir James Mitchell, the Premier at the time. We're looking down into what is definitely not a safe-to-swim zone. There are more remote places in the world than Mitchell Falls, and you could probably count them on one hand. However, school holidays in the middle of July, serenity is not to be found here. Between the hordes of people and at least 3 choppers working a circuit above your head, you are in for an auditory assault. So, if you are planning to visit Mitchell Falls, purge the thought of serenity out of your mind. Be prepared for what it is, and that will enhance your experience and enjoyment of the place.
Even high up on the plateau, the waterways have a healthy fish population, dominated by various species of perch. This is exploited by those in the know, such as this white-faced heron. The nature of the landscape creates a variety of habitats and supports a diverse range of plants and animals. This Australian reed warbler is relaxing after a busy morning of warbling. This is how parasitic mistletoe plants are spread. See how those sticky seeds need to be wiped off where it sticks to the branch of a prospective host. The bird in question just so happens to be called a mistletoe bird. The white-quilled rock pigeon is endemic to the Kimberley, and if you ask me, it kind of looks like a big rat as it scurries around the rocks. Nighttime brings out the carnivorous northern quail. Scavenging about the camp is the rabbit-sized northern brown bandicoot. Owl-like tawny frogmouths search the ground for prey while scaly-tailed possums feast in the foliage. The diminutive Mahjong rock wallaby has a very restricted range just here on the plateau. We even come across the wonderful sugar glider, a small possum with the limited ability to fly between trees.
The road north receives a lot less traffic and is therefore less developed and less maintained. It leads us out to a less renowned waterfall at Surveyor's Pool. Although this resident is not the sinister variety, we're also in another not safe zone, so any water activities can be perilous. There are some steep hills to climb with our heavy expedition vehicle, and if you don't select the right gear for the job, things can go a little wonky. Oh, we're running out of juice! Oh. That was embarrassing.
The road onwards becomes progressively worse until we're down to an idle speed, crunching over bare rock, on the way to Port Warrender on the north coast. Small springs seeping across the track provide moisture for thirsty white-winged trillers, friarbirds, and the rare and endangered Gouldine finch. The huge inlet at Port Warrender would make for some great watery explorations, but the dry season winds are blowing towards shore, creating some unfavorable conditions for our small vessel. It's a long road back, and we choose another campsite in the wilds. Some unseasonably heavy clouds move in, threatening rain, but pass without incident.
Kalumburu is a remote Aboriginal mission in the far north of the state, where the expeditioner can obtain fuel and limited supplies. The Centrelink building right in the middle of town is adorned with decorative art and interesting illustrations. Next to the payphone is a notice board informing you on where you can go. A little way out of Kalumburu are the ruins of an aeroplane that experienced a rough landing. The history of this wreck is not clear to us, but Kalumburu was once an important airbase during the Second World War, and like other parts of northern Australia was targeted heavily by Japanese bombers. We again meet up with the King Edward River, and the temptation becomes too great. Queenfish on a fly rod. Geez, that was a great battle. That was awesome.
We've just left Kalumburu, and now we're heading about 25 kilometers north on this bumpy road to a place called McGowan Island Beach. Now, the rumor is that they've got some pretty good fishing up there, but that's a rumor we've heard before, so we'll go see for ourselves.
This is one of several campsites set along the stunning Kimberley coast. After we set up camp, it's time to become acquainted with the locals. Managing the campsite is a very affectionate emu that gets a little too friendly, like in a weird way. There are in fact 2 of these big birds, but their relationship is far from harmonious. McGowan's camp has a beach launch, which gives access to this huge bay, largely protected from the prevailing winds and the open ocean. Everywhere you look gives the feeling of enormous space in a colorful landscape that seems like it's straight from the artist's palette.
Greetings there, it's Mr. Foreman, captain of the Interceptor, and me and Wilms are north of Kalumburu. I'm going to show off some of my rather impressive cast netting that I learned in Derby as we try to secure some live bait. It's going to be like taking candy off a baby. From the look of that, I'm incapable. Right, we've got a grand total of 1. Oh yes. 2, 3. Pay dirt. So this is my tackle box, and when I go fishing I like to be organised and prepared. Some time back I prepared some preset rigs for this. I'd like to show them to you. Due to the ever-present threat of dangerous crocodiles and large sharks, management encourages visitors not to chuck their fish guts and carcasses anywhere near the beach. Instead, there are a couple of big bommies about 400 metres offshore where fishermen discard their waste. And that's why I'm here. With the prospect of a pre-burleyed rocky outcrop, I'm a reckoning that fishing might be alright. And it's not long before the first hookup. Oh, a mighty battle. This one is I would call it a stripy sea perch. Nasty big teeth. Then we're on again. Woo. There we go, some nice big cod creature. Hopefully I haven't hurt him too much. I'm not going to keep this fellow. Got quite a mouth. Oh.
Meanwhile, back at camp, things are not going so well, as a huge plume of smoke indicates a wildfire.
looks like the fire's coming straight at camp. I'm packing up when this bloody big fish won't let go, and I need to get back. The Land Rover, Wilms is there.
The fire sweeps through the dry brushland and reaches the camp. The manager's running about in panic and confusion, which is so not what we need right now. The black smoke blocking out the sunlight completely.
Big fish head on the end of this, so whoever's got this is probably a ray or a shark. Or something else you don't want to do here. Oh, near the boat. Oh, I might have lost a bit of fuck.
Despite the spectacle of the blaze, it reaches the edge of the bush at the beach and begins to die down, causing no real damage.
With the fish gone and the threat of incineration thwarted, life returns to normal at McGowan's camp. A wondrous sunset bathes the horizon in red and orange hues as the day draws to a close, leaving us to ponder what new adventure awaits on the morrow.